Control was the game that Remedy released before Alan Wake 2. A lot of people voted for it as their game of the year, and I really want to play it. But the problem is I have over 1,500 games I've already bought that I haven't played yet. So in an effort to actually clear out the backlog, I gave myself a challenge. Can I beat and review 5 random games from my backlog to earn the right to play the game I actually want to play? Here are the rules. Each game is picked at random from my backlog or is selected by someone else for me to play. I can't have any input on it. Each game that I review can earn a maximum of 10 points based on how good it is. And if I don't beat the game, its score is cut in half. If the total score of these 5 games adds up to 30 points or more, I get to play Control and use it as one of the 5 games in a future video in this series. If the 5 games score less than 30 points, Control goes back into the backlog. I miss my opportunity to play it until it's picked randomly for me. So are these 5 games going to be worthy of all this effort, or did I just waste my time? Hey guys, I'm RNG Gamer. I play all my games randomly, and let's talk about the first game that was picked. It's Silent Hill 2. This game was picked for me to play by chat in my live streams. They donated money to buy a gold star to select this game for me to play. The main character gets a letter from his dead wife, and she is in Silent Hill, which is where they had their honeymoon when they got married. He goes there to find her, and Silent Hill, of course, is freaking all screwed up and full of bizarre and insane characters, just like you would expect, and he has to unravel the mystery of what's going on. It plays like any other survival horror game. You explore around Silent Hill, you gather supplies, and you solve puzzles, and you shoot and beat to death a bunch of really freaky and weird enemies that you see that have some of the most bizarre and weird character design I've ever encountered in any game, the kind of stuff that haunts your nightmares. The gunplay and the melee combat is kind of slow and sluggish. It usually is in survival horror games, but it felt even more so here. It feels like the enemies will often just smack you before you even have a chance to get in a hit, and I found myself going through this game like randomly walking down halls, swinging the club back and forth, just in case an enemy walked around there, I would thwack them before they got me. Luckily, there are a lot of healing items to kind of counterbalance this, which is nice, so you're not going to end up in too many situations where you're dying and there's no resources to help you out. The game looks and sounds incredible. They were able to pull things off that I don't see in like AAA games now, like reflections and mirrors and using stereo sound to locate enemies in the dark. The sound design's fantastic in this game. It's really creepy, just like you would expect. Maybe the creepiest I've ever heard in any game. I can't think of any that rival it, to tell you the truth. And just the set design and the character design and the general atmosphere of this game is unbelievable. There's a reason that this game's considered a classic and is beloved by like so many freaking people. And there's a reason they're remaking it, because everybody wants to relive that experience, including me. I'm gonna play it when the new one comes out. I will say that this game's story is a vast improvement over the first game. Instead of it being like a supernatural cult, it's a psychological horror that's full of hallucinations and strange events and unorthodox level design. It all feels very like metaphorical and really honestly allegorical. You can't trust what you see or you experience, and the whole game is like one long fever dream, to tell you the truth. And it's stressful and it's bizarre, but it's Silent Hill and that's what it's supposed to be, right? It has Pyramid Head. It has a lot of weird like sexual undertones. And as I streamed this, I was telling chat what I thought was happening and what I thought was going on with the story, and it was wrong. I was not right at all. The twist ending of this game caught me off guard, I have to say, and I think my idea would have been better, but I was still really thrilled with what actually happened. Now, I did say that this game is beloved, but it is not a perfect game. It has a few flaws. I'm going to touch on a few of them right here. I complained in the first game that you didn't really get a good opportunity to explore the town because of the infinitely respawning enemies that were outside, and that's still the case here. You can't really get out and soak in Silent Hill because there's always crap like chasing you around and assaulting you and accosting you from all angles, and there's limited ammo and resources, so you can't really soak it in like you do in Resident Evil, where when you clear out an area of the mansion or the town or whatever, you can explore in your leisure to find like the hidden items and things like that. You can do that inside the buildings in Silent Hill, more or less, but you can't really do it in the city center, which is a little disappointing for me. I also complained in the first game that the ladder areas were like too large and maze-like, and you spent too much time just freaking wandering around trying every key on every door until you randomly just happen to open one up. And that's kind of the case here as well. Every area in Silent Hill is like that. You go from a big and confusing apartment building to a big and confusing hospital to an underground maze, and the environments all feel very samey and just aren't engaging. I did not like the areas in this one as much as I did in the first Silent Hill. Not at all. There's also this thing where like bosses can't really be damaged, and you don't know that. You're just waiting around for like an invisible timer to end, and I didn't really like that either. It did make for some interesting points in the stream, but I found myself getting a little frustrated when that kept happening over and over and over again, and my default way to handle any boss in this game was just to like run around till the boss fight ended. And honestly, I feel like Silent Hill is almost like a toss-up with the first Silent Hill. It has a better story and better characters, but like worse environments, and it has multiple endings just like the first game. I got the water ending on normal difficulty, and there are apparently like 4 or 5 more endings that I went and watched on YouTube and enjoyed, but I didn't want to go back and play them again because I didn't want to spoil the game for myself. I feel like when you really like a game as much as I liked this one, going through it multiple times can kind of turn it into a chore, and I didn't want that to happen. I will say this, I beat this game and I only killed 7 enemies in the whole game with guns. Every other enemy I beat to death with a stick. I wasn't trying to do a special challenge or anything like that. It's just how I felt like doing it. I was trying to conserve my ammo, and the game never got hard enough to make me need to whip out the shotgun, except in just a few places on boss fights and things like that. So there's really not that much of a challenge here on Silent Hill 2. It's more of an experience than it is a really hard video game. But some of the exploring and the puzzles are where most of the challenge is rather than the combat. So of course Silent Hill 2 was a fantastic game. I loved it. Like I said, it's a toss-up kind of with the first one. And based on that, I'm gonna have to give Silent Hill 2 a 9 out of 10. It's absolutely amazing, probably in the running for one of the best games I'll play all year. Now, you're not gonna believe this, but I had never played this next game's campaign. I played the multiplayer a little bit in college. This is my first time ever diving into the story of Halo. Once again, I streamed this online. I wanted everybody to witness me playing it. I know it's rated M for mature, but it actually feels more like a Saturday morning cartoon. The Covenant is so silly. It's so silly, and the things they say and just the way they behave is very amateurish, not in terms of production quality, but amateurish in terms of personality. So Halo's story, you guys probably already know this, but for those of you like me that are uninitiated, Master Chief is the main character. He's this super soldier, and he's in cryo sleep on this ship, and the ship gets attacked by the Covenant, who I guess the humans are at war with, and they crash land on this mysterious object in space called the Halo, and it's discovered that the Covenant wants something on the Halo, but you have to get there first. Spoiler, the Halo houses a galaxy-killing species called the Flood, and the Halo is designed to chain react with the other Halos to wipe out all the life in the galaxy to stop the spread of the Flood. Obviously, you have to stop this. Halo is 23 years old, and it plays just like any modern first-person shooter. The controls are perfect. You can hold 2 weapons, you can melee enemies. You can jump around and do all the stuff you would expect. Now, Master Chief and a lot of the enemies have these regenerating shields, and you have to keep pressure on them to take them out before the shield regenerates. If you unload a clip into an elite soldier, you knock out his shield but you don't take away any of his life, you basically just wasted your ammunition. You have this Jeep-like vehicle called the Warhog. You have a Banshee, which is kind of a semi-flying sort of vehicle. Very cool. But they handle like crap. I have never been able to get the hang of driving the vehicles in Halo, especially the flippin' Warthog, which you use a ton in this game. It doesn't steer like the way a car steers. Instead, it just automatically goes where you're pointing. So you press forward on the left analog stick, and then you just look with the right analog stick. And the Warthog doesn't turn in real time with you moving the analog stick. And it must have a rear-mounted engine, because the back end of that freaking thing slips around and spins out of control all the time. I felt like I was crashing nonstop. Everybody was making fun of me in the stream about it, and rightly so. But to tell you the truth, if you can't get the hang of driving this thing after a few hours, you're probably never never going to get the hang of it. Now, I am playing the Xbox original version of this, but I'm playing it on the Xbox 360, which does upscale it a little bit. And I have to say, guys, for a game that's over 20 years old, this looks absolutely incredible. Seeing the Halo for the first time is magnificent, and all the outside areas are gorgeous and super memorable. Unlike the interior areas that make up the vast majority of the game and are just gray hallway after gray hallway, copied and pasted freaking areas, you see the same crap over and over and over again. You'll fight through one octagon-shaped room, you'll walk across a bridge. You'll fight in a copied and pasted octagon-shaped room, walk across a bridge. You'll do this 5 or 6 times, and it's way too much. And then the game will make you backtrack through this crap again later. Okay, fine. You're exploring these giant structures on the Halo ring, but they don't make any sense. Why do you have an elevator that goes up to the first floor of a building, and then there's nothing on the freaking building at all? There's no computer terminals. There's nothing to interact with. It's just an empty hallway, and then you go to the other end of the hallway and you get on another freaking elevator that takes you up to the second floor, and then once again, there's no features in it. There's nothing there. What is the purpose of these different floors in this building? And you go through like 5 floors like this, zigzagging up and down for no reason. I just don't get that. It felt bloated and padded. The inside areas of this game did anyway. I think Halo is a masterclass on gameplay, but has really dated level design. It just wasn't that much fun playing through a lot of the levels in this game, and the game was a bit long. It took me about 10 hours to finish it, maybe 11 or so. My last stream was 5 hours long. I want to see where this story goes, and I think Master Chief is a really cool character, but the Covenant are just like goofy as hell. Like, I cannot get behind the Covenant. I don't like them as characters. I think the Flood is neat, but they're annoying to fight against. So I don't know how to feel about that. I really don't. The Covenant make the game feel silly. It's supposed to be this big epic space odyssey, but instead, like I said, it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon. The non-vehicular combat's really great, but the vehicular sections are awful. And the end of this game is like a timed death run on the freaking Warthog to escape on a timer, and it took me so many tries to do it. And you die, you have to start over. If you screw up, you have to reload the checkpoint. It was like a comedy of errors on the live stream as I was trying to finish off the last section of this game. It was absolutely hilarious, but it was annoying as can be. That last section of Halo is not a good way to end a game. I had fun with Halo, and I see why people love it so much. I want to see where it's going. I'm gonna play the other games, but the level design in this game was not great. I feel like it was primarily created to be a multiplayer game first, and they kind of shoehorned in the story a little bit rather than the other way around, which is what I would have preferred. It should have been about 5 hours long, not 11 hours. So with that being said, and before you guys get into the comments and tear me a new one, this is a good game. It's just a little bloated. I hope they refined it down the line. But Halo Combat Evolved got a 7 out of 10. Once again, we have another game that was picked and played on a stream. It's The Darkness on Xbox 360. So the only thing I really knew about this game going into it was that Mike Patton from Faith No More did the voice of like the bad guy in this game. He's a fantastic singer, he's a phenomenal vocalist, and I assumed he was going to be a great voice actor, and he really was. This game came out in 2006. I remember it getting kind of like middle of the road reviews, but I was pumped to try it out anyway. So you play as this mafia hitman who gets possessed by this spaghetti monster called the Darkness. I guess it's a demon. I don't know what it is. They never really explained it. And you have to kill your uncle who put out a hit on you for some reason. After I finished the game, I went online and they basically said it was because he got paranoid. But they never really go into that. So I don't really know what the whole plot's going on with this game. You travel all around New York City doing various tasks and meeting people in a somewhat kind of open world environment. And you can explore around a bit, but the world is pretty empty and there really isn't much that you do. And the open world basically serves as a way to make it more frustrating to find your next objective. I got lost often in this and had to get help from chat. I spent time running around in wrong areas that I wasn't supposed to be in yet. I kept having to go to the info desk in the subway stations to get help, to have them tell you where to go, and they just will. They'll tell you exactly where you need to go, and even then I was like, I don't know what train platform to go to. And It has normal first-person shooter mechanics with shooting and combat encounters that feel like an early Xbox 360 shooter. It's just like exactly what you would expect. But you have this demon with these abilities that you can unlock. You can turn into a slug and sneak around assassinating people kind of in a stealth mode. You can crawl through tight spaces. You can whip enemies and other debris and throw it around. You can summon a variety of helpers. All those things you kind of want if you had a demon living in your back. Unfortunately, a lot of these abilities feel either really overpowered at times or underpowered, and they're hard to utilize. And I felt like I was either not able to do what I wanted to do in the game, or that I had like broken the game and I was doing something I shouldn't be doing and I was missing out on all the challenge. So that was a little frustrating to me. I felt like they could have done more with the abilities to kind of make them more interesting and, like I said, more integral to the gameplay. You can level up these abilities by eating the hearts of the fallen enemies you kill, and you'll be doing this a lot in the game. I think I had to do it over 300 and something times because I got an achievement for it towards the end of the game. It felt like a lot, and as I was editing the gameplay footage, there was so much time watching these quick little animated cutscenes of the darkness consuming these hearts. The game looks good even now. The environments in the city can get a little boring and samey, but I mean, a lot of environments in real cities can get a little boring and samey, so I guess that's kind of okay. I guess it gets a pass for that. Some of the character models, like Jenny, which is the main character's girlfriend, look fantastic, but others not so much. It's a bit of a mixed bag, I have to say on that. The main character looks really dumb, and he doesn't look at all like what I would want a mafioso to look like. He just looks like some angsty-riddled early 20s scene kid. The music is epic and really good in this, and of course Mike Patton's like voice work is incredible. He's a little too good in a way. It's a little too creepy and it's kind of disturbing, and he makes noises that don't sound, I would say, human. Of course not, he's a demon, but they don't sound like noises you would hear on this planet. They're way bizarre. I kind of hate it, but I kind of love it at the same time. I mentioned the appearance of the main character. I will say this, he has what I want to call flat face syndrome. He just looks like he has no features on his face. It's just perfectly flat, almost like a cube with skin wrapped around it. And I don't understand why they made him look like that when they made Jenny look so good, because you see him talking all the flipping time. There's also some really weird, dated, and offensive humor that's very cringeworthy, or just cringe as the kids would say now, that I didn't like and like skipped over it and edited it out of the videos because I didn't even want it to be up on YouTube because I thought somebody would get mad at me for it. They use some derogatory terminology that, I mean, I could say it's a product of the time, but I think even back then it was kind of a little too edgy for its own good. My final thoughts about this game were that the exploration and the gameplay were just kind of meh, and the characters other than Jenny kind of sucked, and the story didn't really make sense. I still don't know why Paulie wanted to kill Jackie, who's the main character, and I couldn't remember his name till just now. And the combat was clunky and weird, and I either like headshotted everyone in the game or I couldn't hit crap. It just never really clicked. And I did a good job with it. You know, I beat it. I think it's cool how you like kind of teleport back to different time periods in this game, and I enjoy going back to World War I, meeting the main character's ancestor, and kind of trying to uncover the story of what's going on with the darkness, but they just sort of tiptoe around it and never get to it, and they never fully explain what's even going on, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I think the darkness is a relic of its time. It's kind of worth playing. There's some things about it I really liked. I loved the relationship with Jenny. I liked the part where you got to hang out in her apartment, and I liked the fact that you can sit down with her on the couch and watch the entire film of To Kill a Mockingbird. That was really neat, but that was the most interesting part of the game to me. Now, if you want to see the highlights of me playing this, you can watch all of it here on this channel under the live tab, or you can go over to the other channel, RNG Gaming, and see the highlight reel. And I have to say this, I think it's the funniest video I've ever made. So go check that out. But in terms of playing the darkness, sadly guys, it's just a 5 out of 10. It's pretty mediocre. If you're enjoying the video, consider subscribing. Hit that bell notification so you know when the new videos come out. They come out every single Saturday. Give me a like, it's the best way to help with the YouTube algorithm, and leave a comment. I answer every single one of them. Well, that was 3 random shooting games that were picked for me. Let's talk about a game that's a little bit happier. It's Sonic Mania. Once again, I live streamed me playing this entire game. I didn't want anyone to doubt that I actually did this challenge. So I grew up with Sonic games, but I haven't played any for years. And I knew that this game was considered a return of form for the series, or the 2D series that is, and it was really headed up by like a mega fan that I believe was making his dream Sonic game, and Sega shut him down, and instead of like suing him, they're like, well, just come make it for us, which is the way you should handle something in that situation. This looks and sounds just like classic Sonic. It has, of course, a little bit of a nicer sheen on it, being on the Switch and being a modern console game. I remember being fascinated with the color and the presentation of the first Sonic game, and I definitely got that again here. But even though this looks like a classic Sonic game, the stages are way larger, with way more routes and different things you can take through the stage and different ways to maneuver through the different areas. It feels like Sonic really on steroids in a lot of ways. Even though it's a love letter to the classic games, they really went above and beyond with this one, what they could with those games. And it's really prevalent. And I don't think any real big Sonic fan would ever be disappointed with this game. The presentation's great. Like I said, the level design's the best I've ever seen in it. And I will say that I do think this is the best 2D Sonic. But that's the crux of the matter. How good is the best 2D Sonic? Because as I've gotten older, I've started noticing more and more flaws with the 2D Sonic formula. This game plays just like Sonic 2. You can run and jump, you do a charge dash, and outside of a few power-ups, that's pretty much it. If you've never played Sonic before, your currency and your health are these rings that you collect. But when you get hit, the rings fly out of your body, and if you get hit with no rings, you're dead. So the big thing with Sonic is when you get hit, you gather up as many of those rings as you can possibly grab so that you have extra health to proceed through the rest of the level. And a lot of times with Sonic, it's not really about learning the techniques of beating an area as much as it is just stockpiling your rings, getting in a couple hits, then getting hit yourself, gathering as many rings as you can, getting hit, and doing that and rinsing and repeating that over and over again until you take out the boss. And there were several bosses in this game that I just went in and took a hit and gathered my one ring and hit them a couple times and got hit and gathered my one ring and hit them a couple times and got hit and just did that over and over again. And I was able to kind of tank my way through some of the bosses without really learning their patterns, which I think is a bit of a flaw. The main issue with Sonic, and what they've always told us about it, is that they want you to go fast. But the trick is you actually need to slow down and collect as many coins as you can to get the extra lives and to get the Chaos Emeralds and have really the resources you need to get through the actual game. So what you need to do is set in stark contrast to what the game kind of leads you to do. And Sonic feels different from other platformers. Instead of feeling like you're going through an obstacle course, it feels like you're stuck in like a Rube Goldberg machine. A lot of the time, the game just sort of dashes along and you have no control and you just watch Sonic. And this is fine sometimes, but the percent of the time you do this in Sonic games is really high, which lowers the gameplay density. If you've never heard the term gameplay density before, it's how much controller input you have to use to make it through the game compared to what you see on the screen. Visual novels have low gameplay density. Games like Tetris have really high gameplay density. You're always manipulating the game. And Sonic, for a platformer, has low gameplay density. Some of the sections of this game I couldn't really figure out how to get through or what controls I was supposed to press or what buttons I was supposed to press. And it turns out the solution was to not press anything and just kind of let the level play itself. And I think that this is what turns off a lot of people to Sonic. It's a spectacle to watch, but it's not much to really play. The stages, of course, are all gorgeous, and a lot of them are really memorable, but others are a cluttered mess, and you can't even tell what is the foreground and what's the background. Stages like the Green Hill Zone throwback, the Cherry Blossom stage, the Pinball Machine, and the Southwest United States stages were super memorable. I loved them, but a lot of the other ones, like inside the oil refinery and inside these various factories, and the one that's made out of like horned instruments like trumpets and trombones and stuff, they're just like a visual disaster. Like it's so hard to figure out what's going on with all these tubes and pipes and crap running everywhere. Sonic games also just really love to troll you. They'll put like walls and springs and spikes and other annoying things right in your path that will cause you to come to a sudden stop or reverse direction or go off course. And that's irritating. That once again goes directly in the face of this idea of going fast. Jumping on enemies is a lot of fun in Sonic, but you don't really do it that much. You're mainly just platforming your way through these levels and trying to find a route through them. And sadly, Sonic's jumping is kind of floaty and awkward. It's always been that way. I wish there were more enemies, and I wish you had that lock-on ability that you have in a lot of 3D Sonic games. I think that would add some like agency and some alacrity to this game. And I know you don't want to hear that about Sonic. You want to think it's a really great, beloved platformer because so many people are in love with this game and it meant so much to them when they were young, and it meant a lot to me too. I loved Sonic when I was little. I was a Sonic fanboy. I couldn't wait to get a Sega Genesis to play the Sonic game. I had a birthday party where we had a Sonic cake. So I know exactly how you feel. One of the other big issues with Sonic is that you really don't have the time to enjoy and appreciate the environments while you're playing because you're bouncing around and getting knocked all over the place. I rewatched the live stream of me playing this game and was shocked to see how cool the stages were because I barely noticed it while I was playing. I was so focused on Sonic dashing around that I didn't notice the really cool features in the background or the neat set pieces or even how the stages were put together. And I feel like that's a little bit of a flaw. Once again, the game wants you to slow down and smell the roses, but it's enticing you to go fast and speed through everything. And there's a real dichotomy there that doesn't necessarily always work. Lots of really cool stuff happens, but it's mostly just flash. You know, like when you're in a fight in an RPG with a boss, right before the killing blow, the game will take control away from you and it'll make you watch a cutscene of all the cool crap that the main character is doing and what you should actually be doing yourself through pressing buttons. Sonic feels like that, except the garbage happening at the end of the boss fight is happening every 20 seconds in the game for the whole duration of the game. You do a couple jumps, then you go into some tube that just zips you and bounces you all around for the equal amount of time that you were actually playing. You come out on the other side, you orient yourself, you hit a couple springs, then the game will put you in a catapult and shoot you across the stage. Like, it's just that over and over and over again. It's fun, but this isn't something I want to play over and over and over again. Now, it's always been strange to me that Mario and Sonic were considered competitors because they're not even in the same ballpark at all. They don't even feel like the same game other than the fact that they're platforming side-scrollers. Still, Sonic Mania is a really good game. I think it is the best 2D Sonic game, but I just find Sonic to be a little lacking in terms of its gameplay. And this comes from somebody that grew up loving Sonic, had a Sonic-themed birthday party with a Sonic cake. Sonic Mania, very good, but just a 7 out of 10. Last up, we have the only game I didn't stream. I played it on the PlayStation Portable. It's a classic on that system, and it's Loco Roco. This came out in 2006, the same year as The Darkness. And this is one of the cutest games I have ever played. Maybe the cutest game. It's up there with like Katamari. But this is a physics-based puzzle game where you tilt the world left or right, similar to Super Monkey Ball, but in a 2D sort of environment. And you can hold down the right and left bumpers to jump. And your little blob character basically grows by eating these fruits you find around the level. And that not only increases your mass, but makes it a little bit more difficult to platform over a lot of the areas in this game. And I use difficult in a very loose sense because this game is not difficult at all. These black blobs have invaded the blob world and it's your job to stop them. That's really the plot of the game. There's not too much to say about it. This game is all about its presentation. It has gorgeous color usage and fantastically interesting levels in it. The music to go along with it is also incredible, and I love the way the little blobs sing along to the music. It's nonsense lyrics and like a made-up language, but I just love the way it sounds. I couldn't get enough of it. I would sit there and just listen to each new track for several minutes to just let it soak in, and I loved the way that this game really pulled me into it. The whole point of the game is really to just explore and find these routes through the levels to kind of collect all the collectibles. You get these little beads and these fruits that I've mentioned, and you can also find hidden characters that will allow you to unlock collectibles for your little house you can build for your blobs, which is just kind of a side event you do in the game. It didn't really have much of a purpose, but it's some extra content, which is something this game needs because it's really only about 3 hours long. A lot of these levels, they have no challenge. You can't even fail them. It's like if you had a Mario level where there were no holes or pitfalls on the ground and no enemies. Yeah, you're running and jumping over various obstacles, but there's no way to fail. You're gonna win. There's not even a time limit. I didn't even know you could fail a level or die in this game till level 37 out of 40, and that was the only time I died in the entire game. The rest of the time I just blew straight through it. The last boss of the game requires some like pretty delicate platforming, but that was really the only time that happened in the entire game. A lot like Sonic, you just sort of jump into some tube and you just kind of watch what happens and you enjoy the spectacle. And I have to say, I enjoyed the spectacle of this game pretty much as I did on Sonic Mania. They feel like they're two different sides of the same coin. But this is straight up a kid's game. I don't know that it was made to be a kid's game, but it feels like, you know, baby's first platformer. Some of the physics can get a little annoying, like hopping over stuff, but you will do it. You have unlimited tries, and you know, it can feel weird when your blob gets really large, but for the most part, you know, you're just kind of watching the levels. It's considered a classic on the system. I know that it has a sequel that's supposed to be even better. I have it. I think a few other games in this series came out in Japan, but they never came to the United States. So I wouldn't mind playing those. I did have a good time with this game, but like I said, it is a children's game. I blew through this game in just a few hours. I had a good time with it, but I was pretty bored by the end of it. There wasn't really any challenge, like I said. Anybody can beat this game, but it is really cute to look at. I think I would have more fun watching somebody else play it than playing it myself. Loco Roco is a 7 out of 10. Just interesting levels without a lot of challenging gameplay. Well guys, we met our goal. We hit 30 points. I'm going to be playing Control, and I'm looking forward to using it in the next video to make things a little bit easier on myself. The game for that video is going to be God of War Ragnarok. I want to get it out there beforehand so you guys know I'm doing this fairly. I'm not cheating at these challenges. I'm picking the game before the games get picked randomly for me to play. Also, I'd like to take this as an opportunity to thank the channel members and Patreons. You can see their names on the screen right now. You can do that by following the links in the description down below. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for sticking around. I'll catch you guys next time.